If you've been creating videos for a while, you'll know that using music really helps to drive the story and create an atmosphere. But we can always add another layer to that. I was creating a video for a client a little while back and I picked some music that I thought really fit the video. I opened the scene with some beautiful nature shots. But it just wasn't hitting the mark for me. It needed something else. I really wanted to take the audience there. On the day of shooting, it was a bit windy and you could hear the leaves rustling through the breeze. I added some of that natural sound from those shots to build more of an atmosphere. Better, but it still needed more. So I went over to Storyblocks Audio where I sourced a lot of my music and sound effects and searched for some natural sounds such as birds chirping in the trees and mixed these sounds with the natural camera sound and the music on top of that to create a layered visual and audible scene that is much more engaging than the music was by itself. Have a listen. If you want to create more engaging vlogs or even small vlog components like the video I'll share in a second, or how-to videos where you really draw your viewer into the scene, ask yourself, how can I create another dimension by adding sound effects? How can you take the viewer on that journey to that place with you? In this video, I'll show you how to build a soundscape for a scene and also how you can use sound effects to add more interest to talking head videos just like this. I created a video last year about shutter speed settings for video. I wanted to open the video by showing the beautiful setting I'd filmed in. I'd picked some music that fit the vibe, but it was still kinda boring. The opener is only 7 seconds long, and there's only 4 seconds before I start talking, but these seconds are crucial for sparking the viewer's interest. I used both the natural sounds of the waterfalls as they appeared on screen, as well as sound effects of birds chirping to build up this scene and enhance the production quality of this intro. For the first shot, I only had the birds chirping because there was no waterfall in sight. For the second shot, where the waterfall appears as the main subject, I bring in the natural camera sound of the water flowing. And the third shot, where the waterfall is in the background, I've dropped the volume of the water flowing so it feels like the viewer has physically moved further away. I use this technique again later in the video to show the finished products of the shutter speed experiments, mimicking the sounds of what it was like to be there in the moment using both natural camera sounds and sound effects I'd sourced from Storyblocks. If you'd like to watch that video, there's a link to it in the description below. Let's build a soundscape from scratch for this sequence I've put together of a woman walking through a busy city. Okay, so this sequence build was originally intended to be a short example of how I would source sound effects to build a scene. I ended up going into much more detail about how I would design the sound for this city scene that ended up being twice as long on its own as this video is. So I decided to make that screen record tutorial a separate video altogether for those of you who are interested in a much deeper dive on this subject. I've pinned a comment below to a link to that video that you can go to now or bookmark in your browser for later. Now, let's jump back into some more sound effects tips. So, what are some ways to incorporate sound effects for a talking head educational video like this one? The first way is to use sound effects as your graphics appear. I use this pop sound whenever new titles appear in my videos. Another graphic I sometimes use is this search box animation, and I add a typing sound effect underneath this for another layer of interest. The key with this one is to make sure the sound starts and ends when the typing is taking place. This might sound really obvious, but it's an important point to be aware of, because if the sound effect isn't timed correctly with whatever vision or graphic it's teamed with, it can lose its effect or come across as amateur editing. Whatever sound effects you choose, try to be consistent across your videos because that will start to create a brand identity and some familiarity for returning viewers. Another way to add an extra dimension is to add sound effects to B-roll. You don't have to film and record any of this yourself either. Here are some examples using stock B-roll and sound effects. None of these shots came with this audio, it was all sourced and added separately. I think you'll agree the impact of these shots with the addition of sound effects is far more engaging. The third way to incorporate sound effects is to use the natural sound from your own clips. This is going to be the most relevant for those of you who are creating how-to videos showing some kind of process where that process involves making some kind of noise. Some examples might be craft work where tools are involved such as sawing or sanding, mechanical work with electronic or handheld tools, or baking a recipe. If you've decided to film the process first and create a voiceover later, keep some of that natural sound in your shots to add depth. You want to have these sound effects at a much lower level than your voice, so they don't become distracting or annoying. They are purely for a subtle enhancement of the shot. I emphasize subtle. The sound effects you choose can have a really strong effect on how the viewer feels and interprets a scene. I've used the following clip with 2 different soundtracks underneath. Have a listen and see how each one makes you picture that scene. I'm guessing the first track makes you picture the couple on a secluded mountaintop, enjoying the tranquil morning with no one else around to disturb them. The second track sounds more like the reality of a popular lookout. Lots of people around while you struggle to get an Instagram-worthy picture, as if you did, in fact, have the whole mountain all to yourself. I hope this video has given you some ideas and inspiration for how you can enhance your videos using even the simplest sound effects. I've linked the stock footage and audio sites that I use in the description below for you to have a look at. Check out these videos for some more ideas, and I'll see you next time.